The text on my screen seemed like a blur as I read it again. I had to blink twice to make sure I was seeing correctly. The message from my mom read, "When I got divorced, my own family didn't just take my ex-wife's side. They practically replaced me with her. They invited her to Thanksgiving and told me, 'You can come, as long as you keep your mouth shut and don't pull one of your pathetic scenes.' I said, 'Don't worry, I'd rather eat with strangers than sit with traitors.'" 5 days later, he made on a move that blew everything up. My cousin called me sobbing, "Everything's falling apart. Please help us fix it." If you are watching this video, let me know in the comments if your family has ever betrayed you. Hit that subscribe button and stick around to see how I finally stood up for myself against the people who were supposed to have my back. I met Jessica during my sophomore year of college. She was sitting in the campus coffee shop, surrounded by textbooks, her dark hair falling across her face as she concentrated. There was something magnetic about her focus, the way she seemed to tune out everything around her. I gathered my courage and asked if I could join her table since the shop was packed. She looked up, smiled, and moved her books aside. Jessica was studying business with a focus on marketing. She was brilliant-driven and had her entire career mapped out. I was immediately drawn to her ambition. As an English major, with vague plans of maybe becoming a teacher or writer, I found her certainty about life refreshing. We started meeting regularly at that coffee shop study sessions, turning into dinner dates, and before I knew it, we were officially a couple. 6 months into our relationship, I brought Jessica home to meet my family. My mom, Linda, dad, Frank, and older sister, Amanda, lived in a suburban neighborhood about 40 minutes from campus. I was nervous about the meeting, but I should not have worried. Jessica charmed them instantly. She complimented my mother on her home decor, discussed politics with my father, and bonded with Amanda over their shared love of running. By the end of the evening, my mother was already asking when Jessica would visit again. On the drive back to campus, Jessica could not stop talking about how wonderful my family was. "Your mom is amazing, Eliot, and your sister is so cool. We are going shopping together next weekend." I was happy they got along, but I had no idea this was the beginning of Jessica becoming more of a family member than I ever was. Over the next 2 years, Jessica became increasingly close with my family, especially my mother and sister. They had regular lunch dates, went shopping together, and texted constantly. At first, I thought it was great that my girlfriend got along so well with my family. But gradually, I started feeling like an outsider during family gatherings. Jessica would know about family news before I did. My sister would call her directly to share gossip instead of telling me. My mother sought Jessica's opinion on redecorating the living room, but never asked for mine. During family dinners, the conversation often revolved around inside jokes and stories from outings I had not been part of. Despite this growing uneasiness, I proposed to Jessica after graduation. We had a beautiful wedding with both of our families in attendance. My mother cried tears of joy, saying she was gaining a daughter. My father gave a heartfelt speech about welcoming Jessica into our family. Everyone was ecstatic about our union. For the first year of marriage, things seemed perfect on the surface. We both found jobs in our fields and rented a small apartment close to downtown. Jessica quickly climbed the corporate ladder at her marketing firm, while I settled into a position at a local high school teaching English literature. As Jessica's career took off, our relationship began to change. She started working later hours, attending networking events, and traveling for business conferences. I supported her ambitions, but I could not help noticing how her attitude toward me shifted. What had once been admiration for my passion for literature and teaching now seemed like disappointment. "Do you really want to spend your life grading papers for teenagers who do not care?" she asked one night, after I had spent hours providing thoughtful feedback on student essays. "I like making a difference in their lives." I defended myself. She rolled her eyes. "You could be making a difference and earning 3 times as much in corporate communications. I could help you get an interview at my company." These conversations became more frequent. Jessica would compare our incomes, our career trajectories, our social circles. According to her, I was falling behind in every category. My contentment with teaching became a source of friction rather than a quality she had once admired. Our arguments increased in frequency and intensity. When I would bring up how distant she had become, she would counter by saying I was not ambitious enough to keep up with her. When I mentioned starting a family, she scoffed at the idea. I am not putting my career on hold to have kids right now. Maybe if you were further along in yours, I would consider it. What hurt even more was how my family seemed to take her side in these disagreements. When Jessica complained about my lack of ambition during a Sunday dinner at my parents' house, my mother nodded sympathetically. Eliot has always been comfortable with security rather than stretching himself, my mother said, as if I was not sitting right there at the table. My sister Amanda chimed in. Jessica deserves a partner who matches her drive. I felt blindsided and betrayed. Not once did anyone ask for my perspective or consider that there might be value in my chosen path. Even my father, who had always been my steadfast supporter, remained uncomfortably silent during these conversations. During family gatherings, Jessica became the star. Everyone wanted to hear about her latest promotion, her business trips, her networking successes. Meanwhile, my stories about helping a struggling student improve their writing or organizing the school literary magazine were met with polite nods before the conversation quickly turned back to Jessica. I began to feel invisible in my own marriage and within my own family. Jessica made major decisions without consulting me. She bought a new car without discussing it first. She committed us to expensive vacations with her colleagues without checking if I could take time off from teaching. When I objected to being left out of these decisions, she dismissed my concerns. I am the one making the money here, Eliot. I think that gives me the right to decide how to spend it. My discomfort grew when I noticed how frequently Jessica was texting someone named Daniel, supposedly a colleague from work. The texts came at all hours, often accompanied by smiles I had not seen directed at me in months. When I asked about him, she became defensive. He is a senior account executive. We are working on a major campaign together. Stop being so insecure. I tried to trust her to push down my growing suspicions. But one night, when Jessica fell asleep with her phone unlocked beside her, I made a decision I never thought I would make. I looked through her messages. What I found shattered me. The exchanges between Jessica and Daniel went far beyond professional. There were intimate messages, plans to meet at hotels, complaints about me, and my pathetic complacency. They had been having an affair for months. I confronted Jessica the next morning, showing her the messages I had seen. Instead of apologizing or showing remorse, she went on the offensive. You went through my phone. How dare you invade my privacy? You are having an affair, Jessica. You have been lying to me for months. She paced around our kitchen, running her hands through her hair. Finally, she turned to me with cold eyes. Fine. Yes, Daniel and I have been seeing each other. He understands me, Eliot. He shares my ambitions. He challenges me, and I do not. My voice cracked. Look at you. Content teaching high school, when you could be doing so much more. Never pushing for more money or recognition. Always playing it safe. She shook her head. I outgrew you, Eliot. I need someone who can keep up with me. Despite the devastating blow of her infidelity, I suggested couples counseling. I still loved her and wanted to save our 5-year marriage. Jessica reluctantly agreed, but her heart was not in it. After 3 sessions, she announced she wanted a divorce. I am not happy, Eliot. I have not been for a long time. Daniel makes me happy. Though heartbroken, I agreed to an uncontested divorce. I moved out of our apartment into a small studio, giving Jessica time to find her own place. Through it all, I held on to one comforting thought. At least I had my family to support me during this difficult time. I was wrong. When I told my parents and sister about the divorce and Jessica's affair, I expected sympathy and support. Instead, I received shock and disbelief, not about Jessica's behavior, but about mine. What did you do to drive her to this? My mother asked, her voice cold. "Mom, she cheated on me with her colleague." I explained, stunned by her reaction. "Jessica would never do that without a good reason," Amanda insisted. "She must have felt neglected or unsupported." My father remained silent, his expression unreadable. "I am going to call Jessica and get her side of the story," my mother announced. Before I could protest, she had left the room with her phone. When she returned 30 minutes later, her face was set in disapproving lines. "Jessica told me everything. How you refused to advance your career despite her encouragement. How you became jealous and controlling of her success. How you invaded her privacy by going through her phone." "That is not what happened," I protested. "She was having an affair. She admits she grew close to a colleague because she felt unsupported at home," my mother countered. "This would never have happened if you had put more effort into your marriage." I looked to my father and sister for support, but Amanda was nodding along with my mother's assessment, and my father stared at the floor. I felt as if I had stepped into an alternate reality where I was the villain in my own divorce story. In the weeks that followed, I discovered Jessica had been in contact with my family, regularly shaping her narrative of our breakup. She had convinced them that she had tried everything to make our marriage work, but my complacency and jealousy had made it impossible. My family, who had always adored her, readily accepted her version of events. What hurt even more was learning that Jessica continued to be included in family functions after our divorce was finalized. My mother still met her for lunch. My sister still went shopping with her. They maintained their group chat, which I had never been part of. When I questioned this continued relationship, my mother defended it fiercely. "Jessica has been part of this family for 7 years, Eliot. We are not going to cut her out of our lives just because you two could not make your marriage work. She cheated on me, Mom. She lied to all of us. She made a mistake because she was unhappy. You need to take responsibility for your part in that unhappiness." It became clear that in my family's eyes, Jessica had become the daughter and sister they preferred. She shared their values of ambition and status in ways I never had. My contentment with a teaching career and simpler life had always been a disappointment to them, though they had never stated it so explicitly before. Only my father showed any doubt about Jessica's version of events. One evening when we were alone, he quietly asked, "Is there more to this story, son?" I poured out everything: Jessica's affair, her dismissal of my career choice, her unilateral decisions. He listened without interrupting, his brow furrowed. "I believe you, Eliot," he said finally, "but your mother and sister, they have always admired Jessica's drive. It might take some time for them to see the truth." His support meant everything, but it was not enough to change the family dynamic. Jessica had successfully positioned herself as the wronged party, and I was cast as the failure who had driven away this perfect addition to the family. The situation reached a breaking point during my mother's 60th birthday celebration. I arrived at the restaurant, gift in hand, only to find Jessica already seated at the family table right next to my mother. No one had warned me she would be there. I froze in the entrance, my heart pounding. Jessica noticed me first, offering a small, almost triumphant smile. My mother waved me over as if nothing was amiss. "Eliot, you are late. We already ordered appetizers." I took the only available seat directly across from Jessica. Throughout the meal, she charmed everyone with stories about her recent promotion and upcoming business trip to Europe. My presence seemed like an awkward footnote to the celebration of my own mother's birthday. When I tried to share news about being nominated for Teacher of the Year at my school, my sister quickly cut me off. "That is nice, Eliot. Jessica, tell us more about that marketing campaign you are leading." After dinner, when Jessica excused herself to use the restroom, I quietly asked my mother, "Why is she here? Why did you not tell me she was coming?" "Do not start, Eliot," my mother hissed. "It is my birthday, and I wanted everyone I care about here. Jessica is still important to this family. More important than your own son, apparently." I replied, my voice tight with hurt. "You are being dramatic. This is exactly why we did not tell you. We knew you would overreact." When Jessica returned, I could not maintain the facade any longer. I stood up, wished my mother a happy birthday, and announced I needed to leave. Typical Eliot running away when things get uncomfortable, Jessica commented loud enough for everyone to hear. "Jessica, that is enough," my father said the first time. He had publicly contradicted her, but it was too late. The damage was done. I left the restaurant ignoring my mother's calls to come back and stop making a scene. In my car, I finally allowed myself to break down sobbing with the pain of being replaced in my own family by the woman who had betrayed me. 2 weeks after the birthday disaster, my phone rang with a call from my mother. It was November, and Thanksgiving was approaching. I almost did not answer, still raw from the birthday party humiliation, but a sense of obligation won out. "Hello, Mom. Eliot, I am calling about Thanksgiving. We are having dinner at 3 in the afternoon as usual. Are you inviting me?" I asked cautiously. There was a pause then. "Of course we are inviting you. You are family." Relief washed over me until she continued. "Jessica will be there too. She does not have anywhere else to go, and she has been such a help with planning the menu." My relief curdled into anger. "So you are inviting both me and the woman who cheated on me and destroyed our marriage, Eliot, that was months ago. You need to move past it. Everyone else has. Everyone else was not betrayed by their spouse. And then their family." I shot back. My mother's voice hardened. "Look, you can come, but only if you keep your mouth shut and do not pull one of your pathetic scenes like you did at my birthday. Jessica is coming, and that is final. We want a peaceful holiday." The words struck me like physical blows. Pathetic scenes. Keep your mouth shut. The message was clear. Jessica was the honored guest, and I was the troublesome relative to be tolerated if I behaved. "Do not worry, Mom," I replied, my voice deadly calm. "I would rather eat with strangers than sit with traitors." I hung up before she could respond. For the next few days, I alternated between grief and rage. How had my family become so blind? How had Jessica managed to manipulate them so completely? The thought of spending Thanksgiving alone, while my family celebrated with the woman who had broken my heart, was unbearable. Then a chance encounter changed everything. I was working on lesson plans at a coffee shop when someone called my name. Looking up, I saw Mark Davidson, who had worked with Jessica at her marketing firm until about a year ago. "Eliot, man, I heard about you and Jessica. Tough break." I invited him to join me, not eager to discuss my divorce, but appreciating a friendly face. As we chatted about his new job and mutual acquaintances, Mark became increasingly uncomfortable fidgeting with his coffee cup. "Look, I do not know if I should say anything, but there are things about Jessica you might not know." "Like her affair with Daniel?" I asked bitterly. Mark looked surprised. "You know about that, but do you know why she got the Anderson account or her promotion to senior manager?" When I shook my head, Mark leaned forward and lowered his voice. "She was sleeping with Thomas Gardner, the executive director, long before Daniel. It started 2 years ago. That is how she got the Anderson account, even though Sarah had done all the preliminary work. That is how she got promoted over people with more experience. 2 years ago, we were still married then." My mind reeled with this new information. "And Daniel?" I asked. "Daniel replaced Thomas in her affections when Thomas got transferred to the New York office. Daniel has influence with the board. Jessica always aligns herself with powerful men." Mark hesitated, then added, "She also told everyone at the office that you were emotionally abusive, that you tried to hold her back. Nobody who knows you believed it, but it became the official story." I sat in stunned silence as Mark continued. "She is still seeing Daniel, by the way. They are planning to move in together after the holidays. I thought you should know." After Mark left, I sat for hours processing this information. Jessica had been unfaithful much earlier than I realized. She had systematically lied about me to colleagues, and I now understood to my family as well. She had crafted a narrative where she was the victim and I was the villain. Something hardened inside me. I had been passive for too long, allowing Jessica and my family to define me and my worth. It was time to reclaim my story and my dignity. Over the next several days, I gathered evidence. I contacted former colleagues of Jessica's, including Sarah, who had been cheated out of the Anderson account. I retrieved old text messages I had backed up during the divorce proceedings. I even found emails Jessica had sent me complaining about my mother and sister, describing them as basic suburban women with delusions of sophistication, a far cry from the adoration she showed them to their faces. By Thanksgiving morning, I had compiled a comprehensive dossier of Jessica's deceptions. I deliberated for hours about what to do with it. Part of me wanted to email everything to my family, but I knew how easily digital evidence could be dismissed or deleted. No, this needed to be done in person. At 2:30 in the afternoon, I drove to my parents' house. I sat in the car for 15 minutes gathering my courage. Through the dining room window, I could see my family setting the table. Jessica was placing a floral centerpiece, laughing at something my sister said. They looked like a perfect family, one that did not include me. I almost drove away. But then I remembered all the nights I had, cried myself to sleep, feeling betrayed by everyone I loved. I remembered the contempt in my mother's voice when she called my pain pathetic scenes. I remembered Jessica's smug smile at my mother's birthday. I deserved better. I deserved the truth to be known. I grabbed my folder of evidence and walked to the door. The silence that fell over the dining room when I walked in was absolute. 5 faces stared at me in shock. My mother, father, sister Jessica, and my cousin Rachel, who had apparently been invited as well. My mother recovered first. "Eliot, what are you doing here? I thought you said you were not coming." "I changed my mind," I replied calmly. "I decided I should be with family today." Jessica's face had drained of color, her eyes fixed on the folder in my hands. "You were not invited, my sister," Amanda said coldly. "Not after you made it clear you could not be civilized. Actually, Mom invited me. She just added conditions that I found unacceptable." I placed the folder on the table. "But I am here now, and I would like 15 minutes of everyone's time before dinner." "Absolutely not," my mother said, standing up. "I will not let you ruin Thanksgiving with more of your jealous accusations. I think you should leave." Linda, my father, interjected, his voice firm. "Let him speak. We owe him that much." My mother looked at my father in surprise. They seemed to have a silent conversation before she reluctantly sat down. 15 minutes, my father said to me. "Say what you came to say." I opened the folder and began methodically presenting my evidence. I showed them text messages from Jessica to colleagues disparaging my family behind their backs. I produced statements from Sarah and other former co-workers about Jessica's pattern of sleeping with supervisors for career advancement dating back to 2 years before our divorce. "This is why she got promotions and accounts," I explained. "Not because of her marketing brilliance, but because she was sleeping with Thomas Gardner, the executive director, and then Daniel when Thomas transferred to New York." Jessica jumped to her feet. "This is slander. I will not sit here and listen to these lies." "Are they lies, Jessica?" I asked quietly, sliding a printed email across the table to my mother. "Is it a lie that you called Mom a basic suburban housewife with delusions of sophistication in this email to your friend Kimberly? Is it a lie that you referred to Amanda as a sad copy of her mother who thinks running marathons makes her interesting?" My mother and sister read the email, their faces showing shock and hurt. "You wrote this?" my mother asked Jessica, her voice small. "It is taken out of context," Jessica sputtered. "Eliot is manipulating you." "Like you manipulated all of us," I countered, pulling out more evidence. "I have testimonials from 5 of your former colleagues confirming your affairs with both Thomas and Daniel starting 2 years before our divorce. I have the text messages you sent Daniel while we were still married, planning your meetings at the Westbrook Hotel." The color drained further from Jessica's face as I continued laying out evidence of her deceptions, her strategic use of people for career advancement, and the deliberate way she had positioned herself as a victim after our divorce. Jessica told everyone at her office that I was emotionally abusive. I said, my voice breaking slightly. She told you I was holding her back, that I was jealous of her success. The truth is, she had already replaced me long before I discovered her affair with Daniel, and then when I confronted her, she turned all of you against me too. Silence fell over the room as I finished speaking. Jessica stood frozen, unable to counter the mountain of evidence before her. My mother and sister looked shell-shocked, while my father's expression held a mixture of sadness and vindication. My cousin Rachel was openly crying. Finally, Jessica spoke, her voice barely audible. I never meant for it to go this far. Which part? I asked. The multiple affairs, the lies about me, or turning my family against me. Jessica looked around the table, finding no allies in the faces that had been so supportive just minutes before. I got close to your family because I genuinely cared about them. When things went wrong between us, I was scared of losing them too. So you lied about me, I stated flatly. I exaggerated, she admitted. I was angry and hurt that you found out about Daniel, and I wanted someone on my side. You had affairs with multiple men during our marriage. I corrected her. You manipulated my family with lies about me, and you continued to insert yourself into my family even after divorcing me. That goes beyond being angry or hurt. That was calculated cruelty. Jessica grabbed her purse from the back of her chair. I can see I am not welcome here anymore. She looked at my mother with tears in her eyes. I am sorry, Linda. I truly did care about all of you. Without waiting for a response, she hurried out of the dining room. Moments later, the front door closed behind her. The room remained silent until my mother began to sob. I did not know Eliot. I swear I did not know she was lying about you. You chose to believe her over me, I said. Not unkindly, but honestly. You invited her to family functions and excluded me. You called my pain pathetic scenes. I am so sorry, my mother whispered. My sister could not meet my eyes. We were wrong. So wrong. My father stood up and put his hand on my shoulder. I am proud of you, son. It took courage to do this. I did not do this to hurt you, I explained. I did it because I deserved the truth to be known. I deserve to have my family back. Can you forgive us? My mother asked tearfully. I do not know, I answered honestly. But I am willing to try if you are. I did not stay for dinner. Despite the apologies and tears, I needed time and space to process everything. As I prepared to leave, my cousin Rachel followed me to the door. Thank you for coming today, she said. I always felt something was off about Jessica's story, but I did not know what. I nodded, appreciating her support, but too emotionally drained for more conversation. I drove home to my empty apartment, feeling both vindicated and hollowed out. The truth was finally known, but the damage to my family relationships could not be undone in a single afternoon. 5 days later, my phone rang at 11 in the evening. It was Rachel, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Everything is falling apart, Eliot. Mom and Aunt Linda had a huge fight. Amanda is not speaking to anyone. Uncle Frank is sleeping in the guest room. Please, please, help us fix it. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of my family's pain. Part of me thought they deserved to experience the consequences of their choices. But another part, the part that still loved them, despite everything, knew I would try to help heal these wounds. I will talk to them, Rachel. Not tonight, but soon. Tell them I need a little more time. After hanging up, I stood by my apartment window, looking out at the night sky. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. The truth had a cost, but it also set me free. 3 weeks passed before I agreed to meet with my family. We gathered at a neutral location, a private room at a local restaurant rather than my parents' house, which held too many painful memories of recent betrayals. My mother could barely look at me when I entered. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying, and she seemed to have aged years in the month since Thanksgiving. My sister Amanda sat rigid in her chair, staring at her untouched water glass. My father stood when I entered, pulling me into an awkward but heartfelt hug. "Thank you for coming, son." We settled into uncomfortable silence, until my mother finally spoke, her voice thick with emotion. "Eliot, I do not know how to begin to apologize. What we did to you, what I did to you. It is unforgivable. We believed Jessica over you," Amanda added, finally looking up. "Our own brother. We shut you out and made you feel unwelcome in your own family." Why, I asked the question that had haunted me for months. Why was it so easy for you to take her side against me? My mother wiped tears from her cheeks. I think I saw in Jessica what I always wanted to be: successful, confident, living in the city, with an important career. I projected all my unfulfilled ambitions onto her. "And I was jealous of your relationship," Amanda admitted. "How happy you seemed together, how she seemed to have everything figured out. When she started confiding in me after your separation, it made me feel special, like I was part of something important." My father cleared his throat. "I should have spoken up sooner. I had doubts about Jessica's story from the beginning, but I allowed your mother and sister to set the tone. I failed to protect you when you needed me most. Their explanations did not erase the pain, but they helped me understand." My family's susceptibility to Jessica's manipulation was rooted in their own insecurities and unfulfilled desires, not in a lack of love for me. "I need you to understand something," I said carefully. "I can forgive you, but things cannot go back to the way they were before. I need to know that you respect my choices even when they differ from what you might want for me. I need to know that you will listen to me and believe me. We will do better, Eliot," my mother promised. "I have been seeing a therapist to work on why I was so easily manipulated by Jessica and why I devalued your feelings. I want to be a better mother to you, and I want to be a better sister," Amanda added. "I miss you, Eliot. I miss our relationship before all of this happened." Over the next few months, we rebuilt our family bonds slowly and carefully. I established clear boundaries, and to their credit, my family respected them. We started with short, low-pressure interactions: coffee with my father, lunch with my sister, brief visits with my mother. Each time the conversations became easier, the silences less strained. 6 months after the Thanksgiving confrontation, I met Hannah at a teacher's conference. She taught history at a school across town, and we connected over shared classroom stories and a mutual love of historical fiction. When she asked about my family, I was honest about our complicated past and ongoing reconciliation. Her understanding and lack of judgment helped me begin to trust again. When Hannah and I had been dating for 4 months, she gently suggested meeting my family. I was hesitant, afraid of opening old wounds, but she assured me she would support whatever decision I made. Finally, I agreed to a Sunday lunch at my parents' house. To my relief, my family welcomed Hannah warmly, but without the excessive enthusiasm they had shown Jessica. They asked about her teaching, listened attentively to her responses, and made no comparisons to my ex-wife. My mother, in particular, seemed determined to show that she had learned from her mistakes. A full year after the Thanksgiving confrontation, we gathered for another Thanksgiving meal. This time, I brought Hannah, now my fiancée. The difference from the previous year was stark. There was an authenticity to our interactions that had been missing during the Jessica years. We talked about real issues, disagreed respectfully at times, and celebrated each other's genuine successes. After dinner, my father raised his glass in a toast: to truth, to forgiveness, and to family bonds that bend but do not break. As I looked around the table at the faces of those I loved, I reflected on the painful journey that had brought us here. The betrayal by Jessica had nearly destroyed me, and the subsequent betrayal by my family had deepened that wound immeasurably. But standing up for myself, insisting on the truth, had ultimately led to healing and growth for all of us. I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most can hurt you the deepest. I learned that speaking your truth, even when it is difficult, is essential to maintaining your dignity and self-respect. Most importantly, I learned that real love, whether in romantic relationships or family bonds, must be built on honesty, respect, and genuine acceptance. If you have ever been betrayed by those closest to you, know that you are not alone. Your pain is valid, and you deserve to have your truth acknowledged. Have you ever had to stand up to your family for the sake of your own dignity? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe and like this video. Thank you for listening. And remember that sometimes the hardest battles we fight are with the people we love the most.